Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our natural living workshop with community herbalist Lily Cunning. We are always so thankful that she volunteers her time to provide this valuable information. And today she's going to be sharing about sun care. Fun in the Sun, I believe, is the title, but she'll be talking about how to keep herself safe this summer and the products that she will be explaining. So, Lily, I'm not going to take any more of your time. Welcome and thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so this presentation does cover sunblock for sure. It also covers other things that you might want to consider as we spend more and more time outdoors and being more active outside. There are some things that you might want to consider keeping on hand and knowing the quality of those products. So let me go ahead and share my screen. There it is. And make this, let's see. Yeah, enter full screen. Whee! All right, everybody see it? Okay. So today we're going to talk about sunscreen. We're going to talk about bug spray. We're going to talk about first aid because honestly, with barbecues and bonfires and hiking and all of those things that we love to do outside in the summer, you're probably going to need a little bit more first aid on hand. Also, how to stay cool safely and the benefits of being outdoors because I certainly don't want all of these precautionary measures to deter you from being outdoors because it is fantastic for your health. And I want to make sure that everybody knows spending as much time in these gorgeous months outside is super good for you. So, without further ado, let's talk about sunscreen. So, the stuff that you get at the drugstore, the big box store, the grocery store. Most of them contain carcinogens and endocrine disrupting chemicals. And the reason that they do is because when they mass market these products, so they make huge batches in these big industrial vats, right? And then they pour them into those plastic bottles, which is a whole separate thing that we can talk about, plastics. But they pour them in and then they package them into cases and they go into a warehouse, and then that warehouse ships to a distributor's warehouse, and then that distributor sends it to a retailer's warehouse, and then that retailer sends it to its different stores, and there's a warehouse in the back of the store, and then it eventually makes it to the shelf, and by then it's probably at least a year old, just so you know. Now, in order to keep a lotion, let's talk about lotions first. In order to keep a lotion shelf stable and not filled with mold, by the time you get it a year later, there has to be all kinds of chemicals in there, fungicides, shelf stabilizers, homogenizers, et cetera, et cetera. Because anything with a liquid in it, and lotion is at least half liquid, like a water, um, things will grow in it. That's just nature. That's the cycle of what happens. Nature breaks things down and builds things up. They need to put in all kinds of things that are foreign to life itself that keep those things from happening. Now, those things should not be in or on your body. And what you put on your body goes in your body most of the time. Now, you would think that the kinds of preservatives and fungicides and things like that that would be in human body care would be safe. But unfortunately, the vast majority of chemicals that are used in products like this are not regulated. There are only a handful of chemicals that are regulated or banned by the EPA, and those can't be used. But that is not even close to the plethora of toxins that are used in body care, cleaning supplies, all kinds of stuff in this country. In other countries, they have different regulations. Now, some of the more common ingredients that you're going to see in a commercially purchased sunscreen, the ones listed in that second paragraph, those are carcinogens and endocrine disruptors, and they are super common in most formulas. Now, I talked about lotion. The other thing is, like, they have aerosol ones. Not only is that not great in terms of the waste stream, but it also includes these. And all the brands in the third paragraph have had recent recalls for safety issues. So Aveeno, which most people think of as a natural brand, Banana Boat, which has been around since I was laying out as a teenager, Neutrogena, which other people also consider clean, even the store brands, because those store brands are made by the same factories using pretty much identical formulas. They're just branded differently. And of course, Johnson and Johnson. They've all had recent recalls for safety issues. And the way that our country deals with product safety is, unless you have chemicals in there that are outright banned, it goes onto the market, and until there's a problem, we don't do anything. And so education, really knowing what is in your products and in your food, is the number one way that you can protect yourself from these chemicals that can be harmful. So that's why we're here today. Um, you're going to get a copy of this slideshow. So you're going to have those alphabet soup kind of names that you can look up and compare it to the products that you have in your home. And my advice is always look for pronounceable formulas. If you have no idea what it is, what it does, and it's hard to pronounce, chances are you don't want it in or on your body. Like, that's just common sense. One of the more until recently, people thought titanium oxide was a good secondary mineral formula to zinc oxide. But they have found that titanium oxide is really hard to keep in smaller particles, what they call, or larger particles. It breaks down really easy. It's very brittle as a mineral. And what you want in your sunscreen is non-nanoparticle. Uh, and I'll explain how that works in a second. But titanium just breaks down too small, so it gets into pores. And when it festers there, it can cause cancer. So we use zinc oxide in ours and always have. And we also make sure that the zinc oxide that we buy is called non-nanoparticle zinc oxide. It's big enough pieces that it's not going to go into your body. It's going to lay on top of your skin. And that's exactly how a mineral sunscreen works. Let me go on to the next one.
There was a comment in the chat, Lily, that said, Susan said, that was my question. I thought titanium was acceptable.
I know. And up until, some recent studies done by the EU, everybody thought that, right? I, at some point, thought about, mixing zinc and titanium oxide in my sunscreen back when I had my store in Columbus. I didn't at the time just because there was a shortage or whatever, but, yeah, it's always good to pay attention to the more recent happenings, or know who to ask, right? It's hard to keep on top of everything, but if you know who to ask, because I like to keep on top of these things because I make sunscreen, right? So I'm always looking at news about that. And so some basic guidelines of what to look for in a sunscreen. Anything that's higher than 30 SPF contains chemicals that are carcinogens, flat out. So that 50 SPF spray, don't get it. Plus, those chemicals only block UVA, they don't block UVB. So what's the point, right? They just do it because they're marketing to you. They're trying to say, ooh, this one's better because it's 50, not 30. But it doesn't block more sun. You still have to reapply it, and it contains chemicals that are not good for you. So look for sunscreen that's 30 SPF or lower. Look for a zinc oxide formula. Make sure that when they are talking about their zinc oxide, that it says non-nanoparticle. Again, certain sizes can get into your pores, into your hair follicles, and you don't want them festering there. The way mineral sunscreen works, as opposed to chemical sunscreen, is when you put it on, it goes on white at first, and you rub it in until it's clear. It shouldn't take that long, unless you over apply, you use too much, and then you're like trying to deal with it. But goes on white, you rub it till it's clear. And what is happening is the white stuff is the lotion part, right? It's the oils and fats and butters and liquids that are absorbing into the skin. And the reason that it takes a minute is because there's also zinc oxide in there, right? The zinc oxide is going to stay on the surface of your skin and act like little mirrors, right? It's going to literally block the sun. Now, what that means is if you get overly sweaty or you go in the water, you are going to need to reapply, right? But that's a natural occurrence, right? Anybody that claims that you wouldn't have to reapply it even after going in the water or getting sweaty, what kind of chemical weirdness is happening there? I don't know. Um, so it's just a natural thing that you should expect to do. Less ingredients, all pronounceable. So if you've got a paragraph that's, as big as your face and it's in an 8-point font and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even read this. I have to put on my reading glasses. Just pass it on by. All the ingredients should be known to you. And you should look for a fragrance-free or parfum-free uh, formula because in the United States, fragrance is considered proprietary by folks that make body care and cosmetics. And what they do is they tuck in all those parabens, all those things that we don't want into the fragrance because they don't have to disclose their ingredient list on that. So a lot of times, they know that we're looking for these things now, right? Um, and so they tuck it away because they don't want to spend the money on R&D to create a new formula and to print new bottles and all of that. So they'll just tuck it under fragrance, right? Um, and definitely if you're getting a natural one, a lot of times they'll have essential oils for scent. Just make sure there's no citrus essential oils in your formula. I know it smells very summery, but unless you know how those citrus essential oils were extracted, um, it isn't necessarily safe because um, citrus oils that aren't steam distilled, they're like they take the rinds and they poke it and then they centrifuge it and everything. They get really big molecules and those molecules are phototoxic. And so what you're doing is you're putting something on your skin that can increase your chances of getting skin cancer by like 2000%, something outrageous like that. So no citrus essential oil. So those are the criteria of what you want to look for in a safe sunscreen. And again, you're going to get all of this. And I will tell you that Environmental Working Group has a really great database, and they even have one for sunscreen alone, right? So they have one for cosmetics called Skin Deep. They have one for cleaning products. They have one for sunscreen. And this page has a link embedded into it. So when you get it, you can click directly there.
Lily,
So,
I apologize. We have a couple of questions
oh,
in the
sure, yeah.
chat.
Go ahead.
A question, is there a way to prevent that white filmy look and to keep it from rubbing off on car seats, towels, etc.? Maybe I'm just not rubbing it in well enough.
Yeah, so two things. Number one, start with a smaller amount and rub it in until it's clear. And two, yeah, rubbing it in more. So some formulas are easier to do than others. If you have the ability to test it, like when I go to the farmer's market, for example, I always have a tester of the sunscreen and I let people try it and I explain how it works while they're, trying it. So I know ours works really well and doesn't take very long unless somebody takes a really big glob and they're like, and then, you have to use their whole body and share it with their friend and, because a little bit goes a long way. Um, but yeah, I would start with a smaller amount and then I would keep rubbing until it's clear because it does go clear. Yeah.
Thank you.
Um,
And then another question, can they say paraben free if it's in the fragrance?
yes, they can because there's no way to regulate those claims. Yes, it's terrible. Um, so also consider buying a sunscreen that's not packaged in plastic. And I know how hard that is. I know of sunscreens that are packaged in metal tins, in glass jars, in glass pump bottles. But we've reached a critical point in our history in just since the 1960s when single-use plastics became ubiquitous. There are microplastics everywhere in the environment and in our bodies, and they are carcinogens. And we need to stop buying single-use plastics. We need to stop encouraging their use. We need to stop drinking single-use water bottles. We need to stop taking those supermarket bags. We need to package our food other ways, and other countries have done it. So it's not like it's impossible. I know it's hard because everything is in plastic in the United States, but we need to stop. And there are different ways that we as individuals can take responsibility, but we also have to call out those companies that continue to do it, right? It's like, yeah, I like your product, but it's packaged in plastic. No, thank you. Haven, which is a worker-owned apothecary that I'm a co-owner of, we don't use plastic. We use glass and metal, and paperboard tubes. Even for our lip balm, we use the little paperboard tubes just because we're trying to make as big of a dent as possible. And as soon as we can get rid of the plastic fixtures, like you look at these bottles here, they're glass bottles, but they have plastic pumps. I continue to look for ways that we can eliminate everything. You know, it's something that I'm dedicated to, and I'm having a hard time, right? That's just the nature of what we've done to ourselves. So we are, we continue to look for those. And if you ever find something, please send it to me because I'm always on the lookout. But the other thing about, staying safe in the sun that we often forget is SPF clothing, big hats, camping it in the shade, right? Like all the things that naturally shade us from too much sun. Those are things that should be the first go to. And then we put stuff on our skin and, all of that. But staying safe in the sun is important. And staying hydrated too. Like if you're out there for a while, make sure you have a water bottle and not a plastic water bottle, but a water bottle so that you can continue to hydrate. I know the other day I was out, I live on a farm, and we were breaking up big branches from felled trees that we had, and we're putting them in the bottom of our garden beds. So I was out there chainsawing in the heat, and it was like 80 degrees. And we had to take several water breaks, getting through it. And that is exactly what you want to do. If you're out there gardening or exercising or just hanging out, make sure you have water.
Lily, a couple more questions in the chat.
Sure.
Is Bare Republic mineral sunscreen a good product?
I would have to look at the ingredient list because I've not used that one myself. Um, if you have it on hand and you can take a picture and put it in the chat, I would love to see it. If not, I can look it up and let you know. But I actually am not familiar with that one.
And
Yeah.
then another question, what is a good lip sunscreen?
So I would say it's hard with lips just because you're constantly licking them, even if you don't realize you are. So having a mineral-based sunscreen on your lips is probably not great, but you can keep them moisturized with coconut oil, which has some natural SPF, about 15, depending on the batch, and that would be good. So a coconut oil-based lip balm. Yeah. All right, let's move on to bug spray because they're out there and they're getting more and more dangerous. Mosquito and tick bites are no longer just annoying. Um, they have the potential of carrying all kinds of diseases, which I've listed here. The most common in the United States being West Nile virus and Lyme disease. And they can cause debilitating illness and disability. So it's not a joke. We definitely want to do as much prevention as possible. So depending on where you're going and being exposed to bugs, covering is number one, right? Long pants when you hike. I know it's hot, but wearing long pants and tucking them into your boots, for example, very helpful. I live on a permaculture farm, so we have long grasses. We don't mow. We rely on our geese to do that. But there's still some long grasses. And I make sure that when I am walking the land, that I am wearing jeans and I am wearing socks, and my jeans are tucked into my socks, and then I have my boots on. And while I may have bare arms, I can see my arms. I can see if anything's on them. Um, and often I'll wear a hat because, ticks like to jump down on from trees and get in your scalp and whatnot. So, prevention is definitely the best way to go, just like sitting in the shade or wearing SPF clothing, cover up to avoid bug bites, and then also using a bug spray that is not toxic. Um, so let's talk about that. We all have probably heard that DEET is banned in the EU for its toxicity. Um, the United States still, the regulating entities still, make the claim that it is fine in limited doses. But honestly, it's a neurotoxin. Um, it causes neurological damage, and especially on smaller humans and especially on dogs, it can be very debilitating. Um, so I don't recommend DEET. I also don't recommend, I don't even know how they say it, picaridin. It's the stuff that's in like off spray. I don't recommend that either. They haven't done enough testing on it yet to know what its long-term implications are. I'm waiting for either an Asian or a European study on long-term effects. But in the short term, it has definitely caused vomiting, skin irritation, and things like that, which to me speaks to some toxicity, right? Your body is rejecting it for a reason. Um, uh, I don't have any lab studies to point to right now. But what I will say is that there have been lab studies done on natural substances that are just as or more effective than DEET and the other one, picaridin. Uh, they don't have a toxic load that you need to necessarily worry about. So, um, let me see here. Oh, I see. I'm not on my thing. There we go. The way to repel insects naturally. First, internally, up your B vitamins in the summer. When you have a large quantity of B vitamins, which are water soluble, so you don't need to worry about taking too many, especially B12. Not only do you feel better because that gives you energy and vitality, it makes your blood smell funky in a way that these parasitic insects do not like. You can also take bitters, either cocktail bitters or digestive bitters, which are good for you anyway, um, because those substances also make your blood smell weird. Not to humans, just to bugs. You don't have to worry about going around smelling weird. Um, but those are some things that I highly recommend. My favorite way of upping my B vitamins is nutritional yeast. And I put it on popcorn. I just had some last night. I put it on broccoli. It tastes good. It's sort of cheesy, nutty, and it's very healthy for you. Like I said, high in B vitamins and amino acids. So I like to do that. The other thing you can do is when you're hanging out outside, think about putting plants that are natural bug repellents on the periphery of where humans hang out. So on your patio, around the edge, planting things like rue or geraniums are really helpful because it keeps those kinds of bugs away, particularly ticks. Um, and then, you can, rather than using harsh chemicals, you can mask the scent of your blood with a natural insect repellent. So Haven makes one that's a combination of herbalism and aromatherapy. We've used only plants that are safe for everyone, including infants and dogs. You can never put a bug spray on a cat, though. That's a whole separate issue of letting your cats outside. But definitely they don't have the enzymes to break down plant matter, so don't do that. But dogs and babies and children and adult people, can all use the bug spray that we make because we very carefully selected the blend. It includes geranium, which is effective on ticks. It includes lemon eucalyptus, which is more effective than DEET in lab studies. There are videos on YouTube that you can watch, the horrifying videos of someone sticking their arm into like a lucite cube full of mosquitoes, and you're like, ah. They did one by itself, they did one with DEET, and they did one with lemon eucalyptus. And yeah, much more effective. So it has that in there as well as some other ones that naturally repel ticks, mosquitoes, chiggers, basic bloodsuckers. So yeah, I highly recommend looking for the one you like, stocking up before you get out there. So I hope I caught you in time since it's still May.
Lily, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah,
Are citron, excuse me, are citronella candles bad to breathe in?
I mean, uh, it depends. So candles are made with wicks, wax, and then whatever scent. So citronella itself, not really. You can breathe that in, that's fine. Depends on your wax. Is it a paraffin wax? That is not healthy to breathe in. And what's the wick? So if it's a natural paper and cotton wick, that's great. But commercial wicks on a lot of paraffin candles tend to contain heavy metals, and those are not safe to breathe in. So yeah, ask your candle maker, what's the wick made of? What's the wax? Is it a soy wax? Is it a beeswax? What kind of wax? Um, but yeah, citronella in and of itself is not dangerous unless you're allergic to it. All right, so first aid becomes necessary as we're doing more stuff. So cuts and scrapes are much more likely. So having a way to treat a wound and then cover it is important. So make sure you have lots of bandages on hand because covering it, keeping the dirt out of it is going to be important. I make a boo-boo balm that's antimicrobial as well as wound healing. That helps facilitate faster healing because it's a bummer when you have a big old scab on you that inhibits what you can do. My kid, actually, we have a gravel driveway because we live out in the country, and he fell and kind of skidded on his knee. He had a huge gash in his knee last year, and his scar is intense looking. I keep telling him, it's like, wow, you have a lot of character now because this thing makes it look like you've been through a war. It's a really big scab or a scar. But the scab was right on his knee, and it affected whether he could bend. We had to constantly moisturize it with salve to keep it flexible so that it wouldn't split. So definitely having stuff on hand to help facilitate faster healing and softening of scabs and antimicrobials so that you don't seal an infection. Super important. The other thing is, we're around fire a lot more in the summer, even though it's hotter. So making sure that you have something to treat burns on hand. Hopefully you only ever get, a level 1 burn, like a sunburn. And I make a sunburn cream that not only, has things like aloe and calendula in it to help treat the skin that has been burned, but also has menthol dissolved into the formula. And I highly recommend keeping your burn cream in the fridge because then you take it out and it's topically cooling. And with the menthol in it, it has refrigerant properties that make the skin feel better while it's being treated. So burn cream is a good thing to have on hand when you're going to a barbecue or you're going to go to a beach bonfire, any of those things. And then, of course, starting now, even before now, going into the summer, the poison plants, they like to get you. And so definitely if you are gardening, wearing gloves is important, but having poison ivy, soap, and salve on hand, especially if you're very sensitive to it or you don't know whether you're sensitive to it. Because you don't want that nasty surprise. Oh, look, I'm really sensitive to poison ivy. Guess how I found out? Um, so having those on hand is really good. I will tell you, poison ivy likes to hang out on the edges of where human beings have cleared things out to where it is more wild. It's like a border guard. It likes to protect boundaries and protect the wild space. And so, if you are clearing out a new space to make a garden bed, you will probably find poison ivy. So, wearing gloves, and I like to put the poison ivy salve that I make above the glove line because sometimes your sleeves move a little bit and you're not completely covered. If you coat that whole area, then you're good. And then, of course, even if you don't feel like you were exposed, washing with a poison ivy soap afterwards when you take your shower will get off anything that could spread. Because, you might have the oils on your body. Maybe your skin hasn't reacted to it yet, but then wipe sweat off your brow, or, you go to the bathroom. We definitely don't want to spread it in more uncomfortable places. So having that kind of thing on hand is a really wise thing to do. Any questions on first aid? No? Okay. Um, the benefits of being outdoors. So there are so many medical traditions that recommend you going outside, particularly if you have a chronic condition, whether that's an emotional chronic condition like anxiety or depression, or a chronic illness that you're battling. Being outside facilitates faster healing and wellness. So, not only do you get the fresh air, because indoor air pollution is more profound than outdoor air pollution, but the sunshine builds up your vitamin D, and we now know that vitamin D does so much more than we ever thought. And you need lots of vitamin D if you are, in cancer treatment, if you are fighting an autoimmune disease, if you have musculoskeletal issues. Vitamin D is so important. So getting that as much as you can from the sun in the way that your body actually helps make it for you is really important. Also, if you can be in nature where you don't hear human activity, traffic and construction and all of that, statistically speaking, they have done studies, it lessens anxiety and depression. And the one thing I will tell you is when you are disabled or partially disabled or dealing with a chronic illness, is it comes with anxiety and or depression, right? Like it's a whole package. And so even if you feel like you're doing okay and you're being stoic, get outside. Get outside and be in nature. And number three, listen for the birds. Actually go birding. Because hearing birdsong is proven to reduce stress and cortisol levels in the body. And so being outside, look at these beautiful woods. Wouldn't that be beautiful to hike in? Um, Hike around, listen to birds, look for them, see if you can notice them, breathe in that humus and that fresh air, um, and spend your time not doing, just being. It has huge benefits for your overall health, particularly if you are fighting an illness. Take some time for yourself, go out in nature, and do what the Japanese call forest bathing, Shinrin Yoku. It's so beneficial for you. So, my name's Lily. I'm an herbalist. I have a clinical practice. I do talk to folks about their issues, and I do case management. I also teach classes like this one. And I'm the formulator for Haven Herbs. And we have like off the shelf kind of stuff, things like bug spray and sunscreen. Um, but we also have a lot more. And, you know, this is the stuff that I do every week to try and make people a little more well in the world. Um, that's me and mine. And I'd love to hear about you and yours. If you have specific questions or comments, I would love to hear them. I have no idea what time it is because I'm in full screen. Let me
We have about 15 minutes for question and answers. And
Let's do
Darlene
that.
asked, are there, yeah, you did great, Lily, even though we started late. Darlene asked, are there essential oils with natural SPF?
The thing about essential oils is you take the whole plant and you process it. The most common way is steam distillation. And when you do that, you're extracting by the steam breaking open the cell walls and certain things get extracted, but it's not the whole plant. And so only 1 to 5, maybe, phytochemicals actually get extracted in an essential oil. They tend to be the smelly ones, right? But they're not the whole package. And um, often when you're just getting a narrow band of phytochemicals in your extraction process, you're not getting all the benefits of the plant. And so I would not use essential oils alone as an SPF. It None of them have significantly enough in the small percentage of phytochemicals that they have. And what that would do is it would lead to people overusing the essential oil, which is also dangerous because they are chemicals. And anytime you use essential oils topically, you're supposed to dilute them. You're supposed to dilute them. Let's say you're using them as a sunscreen, and so you're using it on large swaths of your body. The most it should be is 2% of any formula. So if you were putting it in oil, you would dilute it to 2%, but that would also take away its effectiveness as being SPF, if that makes sense.
And then another question is, are you planning to be at any local farmer market soon? Now we have to have the definition of local since you are in another state now.
I am. I'm no longer in Columbus. So I live in West Virginia. I have a farm here, and I do go to the Bridgeport, West Virginia farmers market every week. And I have a little shop now again. And so all of Haven's products are in that little shop in Bridgeport, West Virginia. Um, but yeah, I am not coming to Columbus anytime soon, if that's what you mean by local.
Well, I'm not too sure if that's what she mean by local. I threw that in myself, knowing that you're a little distance away now.
Yeah, yeah. I like staying in touch though.
Any other questions or comments that we have for Lily this morning while we still have her? Um, so Susan says, is that on your website? She's going to be traveling through West Virginia soon.
Yes. So anyone who wants to buy the sunscreen or bug spray can go to havenherbs.com and get it. Um, and you can visit me. I'll go ahead and put the market on mainwv.com. That's the store. It's not just Haven Herbs there. It's a year-round farmers and artisan market, kind of like a farmers market, but year-round, with art and craft and farm, fresh food and Haven.
And,
Yeah,
and where's that? What town is that located in?
it's Bridgeport, West Virginia,
Bridgeport.
which is right on Route 50. It's near Clarksburg. It's in the same county as Clarksburg, which is a bigger city. Um, and it's about 30 minutes from Morgantown, where WVU is. Mhm.
And then Christy says, if you get a poison ivy rash, what's the best way to get rid of it?
So first things first, don't touch it without using the soap or the salve, because you're just going to spread those oils around. The soap is the best way. Just strip your clothes and put them in a pile and like put them in a bag. And then go ahead and take a shower as soon as possible with poison ivy soap. The best kind of poison ivy soap contains jewelweed, which is sort of nature's antidote to poison ivy. They often grow very close to one another. It takes away the itch. It removes those oils that are causing the rash on your skin. And then ours also contains plantain, not the banana, but the leaf that grows in the cracks of the sidewalk. And plantain is really good at drawing things out. So if you've got those little blisters, It will draw out the moisture from the blisters, which includes any of the oils that are making your skin freak out. And then I would go ahead once you're done and apply something topical, either a salve or calamine lotion after you've used the soap, but definitely the soap is the best way. So one of the things that I wanted to let you all know is that every week on Fridays, um, I do what's called Ask the Herbalist, and you can either come into the store that I'm in or make a phone call to the store and ask me questions from 3 to 5 on Fridays. So if you go to that website, Mark It on Main WV, it will have the phone number for you. And it's again, Fridays from 3 to 5. It's in the event calendar on that page. But anytime you have questions, I am oh so happy to answer. It obviously can't be a clinical consultation on the phone like last minute, but we can set one up. Or if you have like a general question, like, hey, I've got this, you know, this product, and I want you to tell me what you think of it, and you can like tell me what's in it, or how do I become an herbalist, or you know, I'm growing a garden and I want to grow 10 herbs for medicine. What 10 should I grow? You know, like things like that. Anything that you would ask an herbalist, I am here every Friday from 3 to 5 to answer.
That's awesome. And next month on June the 25th, Lily's topic is going to be holistic cancer recovery. So that should be a pretty educational session. So please mark your calendars for that fourth Tuesday of the month, which will be June 25th.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all of your time today. It was nice to see you all. And if you have any questions at all,
One
you can.
more question.
Oh, great. Okay.
The question is, what can help mosquito bites?
So mosquitoes are just terrible because they not only take your blood, but then they replace it with venom and it makes that little bump and it's so itchy and awful. Like that just seems spiteful to me, right? Okay, if you're gonna take my blood, fine, but don't leave me with poison. Um, you can do a couple things. So plantain, I've mentioned it that it's in the soap. I know that it is where you are because it is so ubiquitous. I would Google an image search for plantain herb as opposed to plantain banana. There's two types. There's a narrow leaf plantain and there's a broad leaf plantain. It grows everywhere you are, I promise you. All you have to do is take a leaf, chew it up, and take the mush that you've chewed up and put it on the bug bite. That's all you got to do. It will stop the itch, it will take out the venom, and you know, by the time it dries and falls off, you won't even have a problem anymore. Plantain. Plantain.
And then another question is how to use aloe from an aloe houseplant. Keep hearing concerns about latex naturally occurring in the plant.
Sure, but if you don't have latex allergies, then you don't really need to worry. Only those that have latex allergies, and usually those um, are from concentrated latex, right? So they take the latex out of the plant, they boil it down, they concentrate it, and they make materials out of it. So it's highly concentrated latex. Um, if you've not shown any sensitivity to aloe before, you know, I wouldn't necessarily worry. But what you would do is you would take the leaf and cut it off and then split it open and scrape out all the juicy stuff inside. And that's what you would use. You can either mix it with some things like uh, uh, oil, or you can mix it with water and vinegar, however you want to, and then apply it topically. A lot of people also drink aloe drinks. It is kind of bitter, just so you know. But you know, if you are having like an ulcer or something, aloe can be super soothing on the gut as well.
Okay.
Well,
Well, thank you. Yeah,
everybody.
I was just going to say the same thing, Lily. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks everybody for being here this morning. Lily has left you with how to contact her. I will be forwarding this to everyone, and then the link will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you can always hunt her down and review the video. And if you've missed any of Lily's previous videos, we do keep those up on the YouTube channel. So she always has such fabulous information to share. I'm always personally taking notes myself because of just the amount of information and education that she's sharing is beyond par. So thank you again, Lily. Greatly appreciate you volunteering your time. Have a wonderful rest of your month, and we'll look forward to seeing you in June.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.